Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel for another video. So I've got something different. This is my Moto version. I've typed out and added up my actual paper deck, and so you'll see it's not in CMC order. This is set up by card type basically and their functionality in the deck, but I wanted to go through this a little bit and give you a little bit of an idea about how this deck functions. So I use this from Multiplayer Commander. So starting off mana base, it's pretty straightforward for red-blue. We're playing full fetches, Cobb, Tower, and I think I'm playing Mana Confluence. Maybe I'm not playing Mana Confluence. I think I had an extra City of Brass in paper and not an extra Mana Confluence. I'm playing a 14 island count. So for paper, sometimes I'll split it like half snow covered, half regular if I know I'm going to be playing against an opponent that uses the extra planar lens. Typically, it doesn't make too much of a difference though. I'm playing 2 mountains. The only reason we're playing 2 is we want to make sure that we're able to hit Anger of the Gods. It's basically the only double red card in the deck, but being able to cast Anger of the Gods or cast like a Duretti and leave up a Nin activation, or leave up a Nin activation, hold up Pyroblast, those types of things are very relevant for the deck. Then we're playing full fetches, Mirrored Landscape to be able to go get our 2 mountains or typically load up more islands into play. Islands are very important for this deck. We're playing Spire of Industry, which is slightly better than City of Brass. And then the unique lands we have are the Tabernacle at Pendrel Vale, so it taps for no mana. It does not tap for mana. All creatures have an upkeep cost of 1 or they get buried. Inventor's Fair, which is something we'll talk about later. Care Keep is something that in a pinch, it gives you something that you can shoot with Nin without having to sacrifice Nin each time you shoot something. So if you get like Care Keep Nin going and your opponents don't have counter magic, you can quickly run away with the game. Playing tons of red-blue lands to be able to fix very well. We're only playing the Wasteland, we're not playing Strip, mostly because Strip was in my vintage paper list, and I didn't want to pull the Strip out of it, and I had an extra Wasteland lying around. For some reason I only have 1 Strip, but I have like 6 or 7 Wastelands now. Like I said, we'll fetch Ancient Tomb, Mishra Workshop, because we're a super heavy artifact build. It's the same reason Spire of Industry makes the cut, and it's pretty straightforward beyond that. Like the fetchable lands, and that's it. We really care about color fixing, and Is It Boilerworks is also in the deck. The reason we're playing Boilerworks is just because Boilerworks, this is a control shell. It's control combo shell, but at its heart, you want to be making land drops every turn, and Boilerworks reads, your land comes into play tap this turn, and you must tap 1 mana for it. Or theoretically, you must lose 1 mana for it. Draw a land card. So Is It Boilerworks is a nice land to have. And because it's only a Miser's copy of like a Karoo land, it doesn't hurt too much. Like opening hands with like Island Boilerworks, sure you don't get to do a turn 2 Nin, but it's still a decent hand because it means you have 3 actions of playing a land in your opening hand without having to spend a draw to find another land, which is nice. So we're going to move into the mana ramp department, so quite a lot in this. Everflowing Chalice, Mana Crypt, Mox Amber. Typically Nin comes down very early, so Amber is very good with Nin. And it fuels into her, which is nice. Mox Diamond, Mox Opal, so triple Moxin. We're not playing the Chromox, simply because our artifact count is so high that typically we'd be throwing away something that's kind of relevant that we don't want to give up. Sol Ring, Mana Vault, and we already got the Mana Crypt, so all the good rocks. Copy Artifact for when our opponents have a good start. Then our 2-drop, that brings us into the 2s. Fellwar Stone, Grim Monolith for the additional version of Mana Vault, the super ramp. Is It Signet and Thought Vessel round out our 2s. So Signet just because it feeds in and in very well off of all of this colorless mana. And Thought Vessel is because we're going to be drawing like 10 cards at a time with Nin the Pain Artist. As Foretold's fantastic in this deck, especially with how many instant count we're at, because it lets you do Nin things on other people's turns without having to. You can leave mana up for Nin and still have mana up for counter magic. Mana, quote unquote, up for mana counter magic. Trinket Mage is here in the mana ramp department because you get him, play him on turn 3, and he ramps you by 2 mana via Mana Crypt. Or he goes and gets something specific like Expedition Map to find Inventor's Fair, or Candelabra of Taunos. So Trinket Mage is definitely a ramp spell in this deck. It also gives us 2 3-drops in the ramp department, so to speak. We have 1 in the 4, which is Thran Dynamo, and 1 in the 5, which is Gilded Lotus. And they're just very, very good ramp. We are playing the Workshop, we're playing a bunch of this colorless mana, so it's nice to have something to dump all of this colorless mana into. Furthermore, Nin also loves the colorless mana. So we're going to skip this column for the moment, and we'll come back to it. So card selection, and we're going to skip this as well. This one. So card selection, we have Fact or Fiction. We're testing out the Antiquities War here. So you look at the top 5 cards of your library, you reveal an artifact card from them, put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom. Because our count's so high, this might be good. It might be a little bit of ramp, it might be a little bit of draw. The other reason is on the 3rd turn, so you play it, then you get another effect of 2 on the following turn, and then the turn after that, so 2 turns after you've cast this spell and it's resolved, your artifacts become 5/5, so it's as if you just ultimated a Tezzeret. And so it might be a win condition with how many artifacts that are super cheap in this deck. Turning all of these 0-drops and 1-drops into 5/5s might be very well worth it. Ancestral Vision, just raw draw power, and if we're playing the As Foretold, might as well play the Vision. We might want to play the Teleria West, just because we have this and we have some very important lands to be able to fetch out, namely Inventor's Fair. We'll talk about that more. Don't worry. Impulse, Preordain, Ponder, and Brainstorm. Straightforward card selection suite. It's typically these are the 4 that you see. The next card to add would be something like Serum Visions, and then I think after that would be Opt. Maybe Sleight of Hand, that might be better, but this is the best suite I've found. Impulse, it tends to be better than the other 2. Because it's instant speed, so you're paying 1 more mana for instant speed. Look at top 4, put 1 in your hand. So you sort of get like a instant speed Brainstorm, or instant speed Preordain for the 1 additional mana, which is great. And then Sensei's Top, because we're playing the full fetch suite, which is 7 fetches. Sensei's Top's pretty good. And we have other ways to shuffle the deck in ways of Mirrored Landscape, Expedition Map, and a ton of tutors. Tutors at the wazoo. Speaking of tutors, so we have War of Invention. Even though we're not playing Winter Orb, War of Invention is very good because it fetches some of our mana or one of our win cons. Fabricate, same thing. Snapcaster Mage with Fabricate, and War of Invention could very well be over here with the Trinket Mage, as foretold, also. Snapcaster Mage. I put Snapcaster Mage in the tutor because he sort of reads tutor through your graveyard. He's like a Merchant Scroll, but he tutors through your yard. It's a cool, pardon me. It's a useful effect, and he also is very good at being shot by Nin. Model the Mixture, tutors for win cons, so we'll pull Model the Mixture to the front because we're going to talk about that more. Merchant Scroll and Mystical Tutor, so they tutor for half of our win cons, but they also tutor for things like our Counter Magic, which we'll be moving on to now. This deck does not want to counter every spell. This deck only wants to interact with the spells that will drastically lose at the game. And you'll see some key choices because of the way this deck is built in the Counter Magic suite. So, of course, we have Force of Will. We're a heavy blue deck. Force of Will's a auto-include. Forbid. So because we are a Nin deck that wants to draw tons of cards and has the ability to draw 6, 7, 8 cards in a turn cycle, and then have 3 turns of Forbid, which is enough time to put a Nin back down and use her again to be able to get more mana, you can set up a Forbid lock, especially when there's only 1 player left in the game. Mana Drain, great to feed into Nin, great to feed into some of these artifacts. Where were we? Counterspell, OG, it's still the best. Well, second best. Negate. So Negate, Swansong, both are basically there to protect the combo or not lose. Basically anything short of losing the game, you don't use these spells on. You want to use your blue ones on like Mana Drain, Counterspell, Forbid, Force. You want to use them sort of proactively in getting yourself to a potentially winning game state, but you want to save the last 5 of these basically to protect yourself from losing the game, or protect your combo so that way you can win the game. So if you don't cheat, don't look at the combo section yet. So Negate, Swansong, straightforward. They are very good at winning counter magic wars. So we're playing Envelop here, counter target sorcery spell, and you might wonder why I'm playing Envelop. And the reason you play Envelop in this deck is it's for a single blue, you counter target Vandal Blast, you counter target Shattering Storm, you counter target destroy all your artifact type effects. It is absolutely devastating to a Nin deck to be Vandal Blasted. And having Envelop and blue Elemental Blast, this actually should be a Hydro Blast, but I can't find my paper one yet. So for the current iteration, it's Blue Blast. So these two spells are basically in there to stop the red mass artifact removal. Not really anything else. And then Pyroblast is the way to win counter magic wars because Pyroblast doesn't get Pyroblasted. So you can put that on stack. Typically, some people will think, oh, he has blue, blue, red, so he's got a counterspell. You counterspell, they counter back, and then you have Pyro, and you win the stack. I can also see one card being added into this, which is Flusterstorm. Flusterstorm might I think the slot for Flusterstorm is currently the Antiquities War, so we'll see how that goes. I haven't had any issues without having the extra counter magic, but I haven't drawn Antiquity Wars in any of the games that I've played with it since I've added it. Next is our pseudo removal suite. So we have about 8 cards that I qualify as removal besides these 2, and countering things on the way down. So we have Repeal, unconditional removal, bounce a thing as long as you can pay the mana. Vidalcan Shackles, it's pseudo removal because you take something. It's very good with Nin though because you take something, shoot it, kill it, it dies, you untap Shackles, rinse and repeat. So it's nice because you don't really have a sack outlet, but you have a sack outlet that draws you cards. Chain of Vapor, it's there to specifically deal with hate pieces like Damping Sphere, like Stony Silence, Null Rod, those types of effects. Relic of Progenitus. This is here specifically because we play a Trinket Mage, so Trinket Mage can tutor for it. Our graveyard doesn't matter too much in this game, so Relic is kind of one-sided, and we get it's nice to be able to pop it real quick. It's also very nice for keeping Search for Azcanta in check nowadays, with more and more blue decks adopting the search. And one of the reasons we are not playing it is because our instant sorcery count's pretty low, so like it's gonna get us ramp, but we don't really need more ramp. It's already flipped as a land. By that point, it's late in the game. We want to find action, and more of our cards tend to be ramp than action, because Nin finds us the action that we need off of all of the ramp, which is why we're not playing Search. Also, it's bad with Relic. And then this is our mass removal suite. So we have Cyclonic Rift, OG Blue Sweeper, very, very good. We have Pyroclasm, and the only reason we're playing Pyroclasm is because it's very cost efficient. One of the players in my local meta is always playing a mono green Freyalise deck, and it's devastatingly good. But Pyroclasm, if I open my hand with Pyroclasm, I know that I have like 7 or 8 turns against him before he can really go off the rails, because I can reset him with Pyroclasm. Anger of the Gods. We're playing it because exile removal is actually strangely powerful in EDH. There's this just in. Furthermore, if you can somehow cast Anger of the Gods instant speed, let's say someone made a global effect, or you played a version of this like that is Quicken or Leyline, Anger of the Gods in response to another Wrath is good for just making sure that the things that dive to another Wrath stay dead. It's also great in a situation of like you can anger into Pyro if you have the mana up, and then everything takes 5 damage, which is enough to kill most things, and none of them die. And then Evacuation because it's instant speed, and sometimes this deck doesn't want to die, and Evacuation it's just a nice catch-all. I've not been unhappy to cast this at any point. So that's the deck. Let's take a look at the Planeswalkers and the WinCon suite in that order. So we have Jace, so he's pseudo card selection, and then he's sort of a Snapcaster Mage. He also flips. He has 2 toughness, so Nin can shoot him for 1 continuously, and that's pretty nice. We have Dak Faden, so he's sort of ramp because he steals other artifacts, and he's sort of card selection because you draw 2, discard 2. You'll notice we're not playing Crucible in this deck, and the reason we're not playing Crucible, even though we have a high fetch count, is because we don't want to be super reliant on our graveyard. Decks are very dangerous, or very prone to being hard removed when they lean onto their graveyards too much. So this is maybe an overcorrection, but I've found that not having a graveyard-centric theme, with the exception of like Jason Snapcaster, does this deck wonders, because you're not worried about I lost that spell, I have to flash that back, or I'm going to lose the game. The deck can still win with lots and lots of different angles without having to do so. Karn, Scion of Urza, is a potential win count all by himself with our high artifact count. Like Karn could come down on turn 3 and start making 5/5s without any issue. I'm not surprised I wouldn't be surprised at all if Karn is absolutely insane in this deck. Oh, Duretti, one more artifact thing. He's sort of card removal and sort of recovery. He's very useful for like swapping out our mana vault for like a Thran Dynamo or something. The stuff that stays tapped down, it lets us switch out or get back like something like Expedition Map, which could be huge. Duretti does. You don't expect him to live, but you don't mind if he eats up attacks for a turn, which is why he's nice. It's nice to have some of these walkers in here. Tezzeret the Seeker is absolutely insane in this deck, so we're going to come back to him in a moment. And Teferi Temporal Archmage. So he's sort of card selection, sort of ramp. Same place that Dak falls into, but at the top end. For a while, we were fiddling around with including the Chain Veil in this deck, and I don't think it's necessary anymore. And Teferi might be on the chopping block because of it as well. He is a lot of mana, so the switch would be either Ugin, because we're super colorless, or Karn, like big mana Karn. And I think Ugin might actually be better because that gives us one more sweeper that's also a Planeswalker that can also draw us cards. Because like if you Psych Rift into Ugin and start going up, your opponents have to play into the Ugin, and then you get to do a second sweep against them, which might be the right situation to be in. So Tezzeret. Let's talk about Tezzeret for a moment. Tezzeret gets lots of mana in this deck. Most of these spells, all but 13 pieces of ramp. He gets removal. Or a Silver Bullet, he gets removal. He gets selection. So Tezzeret is a very good toolbox in this deck. Furthermore, when he comes down, he can fetch you any of your win cons. You'll notice we're not playing Aetherflux Reservoir. And the reason being is, so there's two combos that you see with Aetherflux Reservoir. There's either Actual Storm or this Isochron Scepter combo. Isochron Scepter combo works like this. I have I cast Isochron Scepter, I imprint Dramatic Reversal. Isochron Scepter enters play. I imprint Dramatic Reversal. I have minimum 3 mana in Mana Rocks in play. Remember, non-land mana sources. In play, I pay 3 mana, activate Isochron Scepter for 2 mana, leaving 1 mana floating. I cast Dramatic Reversal, which untaps Isochron Scepter and my Mana Rock. I now have 1 floating. I activate, I go to 4 floating. So on and so forth. So that is the combo with Isochron Scepter to generate infinite mana. We have multiple ways to use said infinite mana. So the most primary is Nin. Now you would think, all right, I can Nin one of my opponent's creatures, make them draw their entire deck. Yes, technically true. You can also just use Nin targeting herself, draw your entire deck -1, because typically you will always have something left in your deck to draw 1 card with. Ponder, Preordain, Impulse, any of them draw 1. So you can always get your entire deck, Sensei Stop, into your hand. But I usually like to go at -1, just on the off chance someone has some way to make me draw a card that I can't respond to. I'm not sure how. Because if you Nin your entire deck into your hand, they can respond to your X equals 57, let's say, by making you draw a couple cards. And now you have 54 cards, like 56 cards left in your library. So usually Nin for a little bit less if people have mana open, because that's their time to sort of get you, so to speak, before you have all of the counter magic in your hand. You'll always be able to get the last 2 or 3 cards into your hand without issue. If you haven't used Impulse yet, you could like your entire deck -4, and typically people won't have draw 5s targeting a player that they can surprise on you. So Tezzeret can get Isochron Scepter and imprint Dramatic Reversal. So that's 1. Muddle Mixture gets either of these pieces. So that's 2. Very nice. And this is a great tutor because you can tutor chain into Muddle the Mixture. So you can Merchant Scroll into Muddle. Hold Muddle as if it's a counter magic until you find one of these pieces and then Muddle for the other piece. I do not ever Muddle early unless I am planning a different combo line, because muddling early means you might draw something, like I might draw Muddle for Isochron Scepter, then I'll draw a Fabricate, and I wish I had muddled for Dramatic instead. So notable, unless you are going with a different line, don't muddle early. So that's the Isochron Scepter line. The other thing you can do with Isochron Scepter, once you make infinite mana, even though you're producing 1 a turn, every 3rd time you activate it, you can activate Goblin Charbelcher. Even if you're revealing 1 card every time, you will deal infinite damage to all of your opponents. And this is the change from Aetherflux Reservoir, because they both function underneath Isochron Scepter Dramatic Reversal the same way. They both deal infinite damage. The thing with Goblin Charbelcher, though, is it lets us play another combo, and that's the Mana Severance Charbelcher combo. So Mana Severance is search your library for a number of land cards and exile them, then shuffle your library. So you rip all of the lands left out of your deck. So your deck has no lands left in it. Now you Charbelcher them, and you deal damage to a player equal to the number of cards in your library. You can choose to leave one mountain in your library if you want to. I choose to typically rip the entire land base out of the deck when I use Mana Severance. So that's another combo that you can use off. So you'll see we have multiple combos. So we have Isochron Dramatic Charbelcher. We have Isochron Dramatic Nin. Into one of these, we have Charbelcher Mana Severance. So this is in 2. This is in 2. We have Izzet Guildmage, which is a cool addition, and I think it's very, very good in the blue-red Isochron lists, because Izzet Guildmage, and this costs 5 mana to do. If you're making 4 mana off of your artifacts, so it's 1 more than Isochron Scepter, you need to be able to make 4 mana off artifacts. Not difficult with Mana Vault, Grim Monolith, 3-Hand Dynamo, Good Lotus, or even a big Everflowing Chalice. Keep in mind, if you have Chalice, you need to make blue. You need to make blue in 3. I should make a correction. You can create infinite colorless mana off of casting Dramatic Reversal, holding priority, activating Izzet Guildmage, copying Dramatic Reversal. You leave Dramatic Reversal on the stack indefinitely. You continuously activate Izzet Guildmage, making a Googleplex mana, and then you proceed to win with infinite mana. So you can substitute Isochron Scepter for Izzet Guildmage. If someone has something like a Null Rod in play, you still won't be able to do anything through here, but it lets you create infinite mana. It lets you use Izzet Guildmage to copy your counter magic. It lets you copy your tutors. It lets you copy so many different things this deck can do. Izzet Guildmage is actually great for enabling, which I think is why he's very, very good in this deck now. I've only drawn him in one of the games that I've played so far since I've added him, but I think he's here to stay for sure. But having the second option as far as Scepter, someone might think, oh, I exiled their Scepter, now they can't win the game. Guildmage is so good. And you can do something like, I'm going to Guildmage copy my Mystical. I'm going to Mystical for Dramatic. I'll draw a card off top before my next spell resolves, and then I'll Mystical for Muddle, and I'll Muddle next turn for Isochron. It's insane. Then you cast Isochron. What do? Do they counter Isochron? All right, you counter Isochron. You make them blow their counter magic. Then you do a Dramatic Guildmage combo. It's absolutely beautiful how well Izzet Guildmage works. So then we have Reset. So we've done Dramatic Reversal in 2 lines. We've done Isochron, or 3 lines. Isochron Scepter in 2 lines. Charbelcher in 2 different lines. Reset. Reset's very good with Guildmage. So what you do with that is cast a spell only during your opponent's turn. After their upkeep, untap all lands you control. So if you can make 4 mana off your lands, not hard at all, you can use one of these pieces in play. Typically it's best with Nin that doesn't have Summoning Sickness, noted. But you can Guildmage, you can cast Reset, hold priority, Guildmage the Reset, floating mana, and then everything untaps, and then before you resolve your original Reset, you Guildmage it again, so on and so forth, creating infinite mana, and then you Nin someone to death. Adventurous Fair unfortunately puts in your hand. So that's the drawback. I wish this put it into play. Man, that would be broken. So you get to Guildmage Reset. So Guildmage is in 2 combos, Reset's in 1. Reset's also very good for making a big Nin activation when everyone thought that you wouldn't have any. So Reset's just good for turning into a big draw spell. Mana Severance, it's generically good for once you've gotten maybe 12, 15 mana in play across artifacts and lands. You just Severance. Typically, you want to make sure that you get Inventor's Fair out of your deck before you Severance, because Inventor's Fair, with the exception of the Reset line off Guildmage, Inventor's Fair in play lets you use your infinite mana and go and get Charbelcher, and then put it into play, and then cast the Charbelcher. So that's why you play Inventor's Fair in this deck, and it's why it is your primary target with Expedition Map. You may think Workshop is better, get the Inventor's Fair every time, unless you're like really hurting for colored mana. Map's very good. It's very versatile. Typically, when you don't have to get a color, you want to get Inventor's Fair. Or you're not like underneath something like a Gaia's Cradle that you need to deal with the Wasteland. So then we have a Candelabra of Tawnos High Tide potentially reset line. So we can make a ton of mana off Tide Candelabra. Candelabra lets us turn, at the very least, our colorless mana into colored mana through our lands. Is it Boilerworks produces additional mana out of the Candelabra, as does Workshop. It's just a very efficient way to produce mana. And transmute all of this colorless mana into colored mana. This line might actually be cut, or I might add in Time Spiral. I'm not actually sure which direction to go yet. I need to test it more, and I haven't gotten to do it too much. So that we talked about map, we can move that over to the tutors. So that's the combo line, basically. Tezzeret gets Charbelcher, it gets Candelabra, it gets Scepter. Dak can steal pieces for mana rocks. The deck's actually startlingly efficient at how quickly you can put one of these different lines together and feel pretty good about it. It's nice. It's a slow, more medium style deck. Every now and then I'll, like, if my hand's like lukewarm, like it's keepable but still lukewarm. This is one of those decks that can sort of keep like a 4-lander or like a 3-land plus rock type of hand, because you can just go turn 2 Nin, turn 3 rock, turn 4 Nin for 3, pick up new cards, and that should be enough to get the engines going, basically. The amount of tutors the deck plays may seem a little bit low, but think about it in this sense. You have additional card selection, you have tons of card selection, mind you. You have Sensei's Top, you have Tezzeret to tutor, you have Jace to dig, you have Dak to dig, you have Duretti to dig, you have Teferi to dig. And you have Karn to dig. All of our Planeswalkers either dig or tutor with the instance of Tezzeret. So the deck does find everything that it needs very, very quickly, in addition to Ninja drawing a ton of cards. That's why we're playing light on actual draw effects. We have a massive one in the command zone. So let me show you the mana curve now that I've talked about this. So pull up the other one. So this is the current curve of the deck. So we're super heavy on 1s and 2s. Then we immediately cut down to less than half of the 2s become 3s. And we keep shaving down from there. Word of Invention is typically small because like that's usually here or maybe here, depending on how many artifacts we have in play. Repeal is actually like probably our most mana intensive card next to Nin. But Repeal could be something else. Antiquities War could be something else. Candelabra High Tide could be something else. War is definitely a keep. So like these are probably the 5 flex slots right now. That could be other things. I like the potential of Antiquities War because it could be just a 1-card win condition or a 1-card kill target player condition. Like, oh, you forgot to leave mana up to block. I'm just going to kill you with my artifacts right now. So it might be worth including because of the upside of that second turn after you put it out. So we'll see how it goes. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know it's not a gameplay, but I wanted to give you guys a little brief glimpse into my world as far as paper Magic goes. I think this deck's a lot of fun to play. It's an ideal deck you want to play if you enjoy control, if you enjoy this sort of adaptive combo style where you go from control one moment into end of turn, Psych Rift, untap combo, counter, to protect said combo. If you are a deck that likes to stop players from doing anything fun, if you like to play stacks, this is not the deck for you. If you like to play sort of an aggro deck, this also isn't the deck for you. This is a slow and patient. Basically, you will never attack someone unless you're doing something to gain the Monarch or deal with a Planeswalker. And usually you're doing something off like a Trinket Mage or your Izzet Guild Mage or something. You don't have that many attackers, I think. Sort by... Nope, product type. So creature count, we have Snapcaster, Jace doesn't attack, Izzet Guild Mage, Trinket Mage, tokens off Karn, like, and then the Antiquities War and Tezzeret at their end steps, or at their end effects, end game effects. So like our attacking creature count is like 3. So very much not an attacking deck. It's a very fun deck to pilot if you prefer control. Or mana cost. There we go. And I think it has some legs, especially in an unknown meta. You can sort of go into it and feel it out. The cards that I would add in those 5 slots are probably like a Vandal Blast. There is sort of a fear of getting Vandal Blast forked against you, but it's typically a null fear. I would want to add potentially this Abrade. It's useful. It's removal. It's burn. The other things we could add is something like some big X spell or some targeted burn effects, depending. Remand is not great in the deck. Like these individual counter magics aren't great in the deck, but the deck's a lot of fun all the same. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share my content to anyone you think might enjoy it. And I'll see you all in the next one.